So it's almost Lent, a time to take stock of life, and here I am at London Zoo doing it quite literally. I'm here counting penguins. Is that number 35 or number 36? This week we're in St John's Wood in London with plenty of pancakes and more from London Zoo. At Lord's, a story of sporting sacrifice.
I had a chance to speak out against injustice and I took it.
And the sensational sound of Only Boys Allowed. London NW8 is one of the poshest postcodes around. It's full of faith communities, each with their own place of worship. And you'll find plenty of blue plaques on these streets, which tell of the movers and shakers who lived and worked here. It's also a place of pop pilgrimage. Recognise that zebra crossing behind me? It's next to Abbey Road Studios, made famous by those 4 lads from Liverpool. I've got to, haven't I? But what exactly is Lent? And how do Christians observe it?
You have to use up your leftovers and you have to give up something. If people like to eat, they'll have to give up eating. That basically means fasting.
Shrove Tuesday is another word for pancake day.
The word shrove originates from the word shrive, which means to turn around and repent for the sins that you've committed. The first day of Lent is Ash Wednesday, which is the day after Shrove Tuesday.
It's when you burn palm leaves and make ash, and then you put the ash on your forehead in the shape of a cross.
Pancakes are made of egg, flour and milk. They taste really tasty.
Happy Pancake Day!
The 40 days of Lent can be bittersweet, a time for a fresh start, for discipline and giving up unnecessary things, but also sorrow and solitude, reflecting on Christ's journey to the cross. And it's that journey we think of in our first hymn here in St Mark's Church. Praise to the Holiest in the height. Not far from St Mark's Church, hidden behind the busy streets, is the Regent's Canal. Built almost 200 years ago, it was far from quiet in its heyday. International cargo passed through, from gunpowder to blocks of ice. Today, though, it's a haven for those seeking solace from the busy demands of city life. This is Little Venice, but it used to be called Browning's Pool after the poet Robert Browning. Some say that he came up with the Venetian name, whilst others suggest it was another poet, Lord Byron, who made the comparison. Whoever came up with it. It's rather nice, isn't it? But today I'm not just enjoying the sights.
Hey, morning,
I'm being
boys.
taught to drive a community canal boat by skippers Dave and Kelvin.
Here we have a forward and reverse wheel.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And the first thing I've learnt is you have to slow down.
And anti-clockwise to put it in reverse. There's a 4 mile an hour limit, but most of the time we go a lot slower than that, which is great because it enables you to take in what's around you, particularly wildlife and things like that.
It's mad though, isn't it? Because you're in London. The pace of life is, you know, always on, really fast.
The canal is one place where you can't go fast.
Do you find that you kind of reflect a lot then when you're out here?
Yeah, you can, because you know, whilst you're concentrating, you can still, you know, take time to think about God, to think about what you're doing, to pray. It's certainly easy to communicate with God when you're relaxed, because there's no pressure. You know, if you're held up at the lock, you're held up at the lock, you can't do anything about it, so you just take it easy and enjoy it.
Kind of forces you to slow down because you can't go anywhere fast. It's so beautiful and tranquil out here, and in London in particular, you can hardly believe you're in London. It's like being away from the hustle and bustle of the city, and it's like being away like when Jesus went into the desert. I can focus on people I need to pray for and reflect on my personal circumstances. It gives me a chance to be away from my business, which is quite stressful at times, particularly at the moment in the current economic situation where businesses aren't doing very well generally. It just gives us a chance to not focus on anything apart from God and steering the boat. And just listen and be quiet and relax and think about the mercy and grace of Jesus and everything he did for us on the cross, his sacrifices he made for us, and how life-changing it is.
I've always loved the look of St John's Wood Church. It's so very, very pretty. It really has the most lovely, calm, beautiful, spiritual atmosphere.
Elizabeth Maxwell clearly remembers the day nearly 30 years ago when she and her young son walked into this church.
I spent a lot of years erring and straying, and really church didn't feature in my life at that time at all. It was Good Friday morning, and Anthony at the age of 4 quite naturally wanted to come to the park, which is next door to the church here. My sight was becoming really very poor. In fact, at that point, it wasn't safe for me to go out on my own. And I had the most extraordinary urge to come to church. I hadn't had that feeling for many, many years. And I couldn't help myself, but I knew I had to come here. He took me gently by the hand and walked me along to the church. I felt as if we were both being drawn. I got into the back pew and completely broke down. It was the most extraordinary experience because I felt as if I'd come home spiritually. Throughout this whole journey of losing my sight, I started to understand and to realize that I was developing a very clear inner sight